Hey coin collectors, and welcome to DC Coin World International Coin Channel. And this is DC, and we're going to look at some 1980 quarters, and we also are going to try to fix some misconceptions about the value of these 1980 quarters. So let's start with just what the mints are and what the mint marks are, and we'll go from there. In 1980, they had three mints. They had the Denver Mint, which is the D here, or supposedly that's a D. They had the Philadelphia Mint, which is this P way back here. Let me see if I can get the marker to it. There's the P way back. Can you see it back there? That's supposed to be a P. And then they had the San Francisco Mint. And San Francisco Mint, of course, is the S. And when they do the San Francisco Mint, even in 1980, this was a special kind of mint set. And it has a special buffing to it. And this is not a regular or a circulating coin, but you can see the S on there. The S is actually really good, right? That's how good a letter should look, but they actually stamped the S's on these different. So when we look at these, this one, you can see it's actually looks like I stamped in a little bit. There's a little indentation there. That's because they stamp them kind of with a rod, essentially by hand, at least they did back then. So at the Denver Mint in 1980, they made $518 million. At the Philadelphia Mint, they made $636 million, essentially. Between the two, about 1.2 billion of these. And the one thing that all of them have in common, except for the San Francisco Mint, is that they have crappy mint marks on them. They're just not great mint marks on either one of them. And it's hard to explain why that might be. It's not that they use different materials. It's not that they did it any different, I don't think, except they did kind of rush through them, I think. And maybe that's why, or maybe, who knows. The other thing is that we're talking about a pretty old coin at this point, over 40 years old. And so they will wear down. Now, when I said I wanted to fix some misconceptions, I'll start with this one here. We did a video years ago on the filled P 1980 quarter. And this is the P, or one of them, and it's filled in. So when you look at this, you say, well, is that a D or a P? Why is it filled in? And we kind of had some fun with it and said, this is a filled P version. Well, now we're starting to see those on eBay for $6, $8, or $10, filled P error versions. They're not. This is how the coin comes. Let's look through every P in this pile. You look at that. That's just not a great P, but it just got worn down. Let's look at the next one in this pile. That's a worse P, but it's a different shape. That's another different shape. There's another shape, and that is just a dot on there. There's another P. So every one of these P's is bad. Often they're bad in their own ways. They're just not marked right. This is the closest we have to a P. You can almost see the opening in the center of the P there. Let's look at a couple more. And why are we doing that? We just want you to know that that's the best P we've seen so far almost. You can almost see the whole P. There is no really such error coin as a filled P version. Every single one of these circulating Philadelphia coins we have, and we have about 30 P's here, and I'm not going to go through every single one, but we have about 30 P's, and they're all filled, and they're all mushed at different levels. What about the D's? Well, here's a D. We'll pop it right up. That one you can see a little bit of space in, but you can see it's still smushed down. This one. Well, that one, I mean, geez. You know it's a D, but, there's no hole in the middle of that one. This one, a little bit of a hole, but they're all kind of, oh, this one is a cool one. Keep your eyes open for this one. This one is missing some of the cladding on the front, and I've seen a couple of these. How can you tell it's missing the cladding? Well, one of the things you can tell is that the letters actually are pretty good. These are not smushed down letters or letters that have had all the metal rubbed off. This under In God We Trust, again, it has not been rubbed off. This down here, the 1980, and this the D, you can actually, this may be the best D we've seen. Now, this cladding just was not very good. If you tip it up, you can see that they did put the cladding on, but it just didn't stick. And we can always also see that same thing on the back of this. Now, sometimes you can get this type of issue from this being put electricity to this one, but I don't think that's what happened. I think that just cladding failed on this one. So this one, probably the best D of the bunch, but this one's probably worth the most because it's missing some cladding. And if there is one on eBay that I've seen that is really missing the cladding and it's just flat, and that one is selling for $200. So look for the missed cladding. But when we look at the D's, another filled D, another filled D. Okay, now this is the best one we've seen. That is what it should look like and look like somewhere near the beginning. Of course, it wasn't all scratched around here, but look at that. So that one, it actually has a D. It has a center in it. You can tip it up back and forth. There's a little chipped at the bottom, but that's what it's supposed to look like. But that doesn't make it of any more value. This one, this is just a dot behind George Washington. You can't tell what that is. And then this is a pretty good one. You can tell it's a D, but it's still smushed. So if somebody's trying to sell you a filled D version or a filled P version, every single coin that we have from every single quarter we have, and we probably between the P's and the D's have 40 of them, every one of them is filled in and messy. Every single one, except for the uncirculating sets you get from the mint, and except for, of course, the S, which I have never seen a filled in S, but I've seen kind of these offset and messy S's. And I'm trying to think, maybe in one of those old pennies you might get one that's a little filled in because they got mushed. But even that wasn't a mint error. That was from use. All right, that's all we have today from DC Coin World. Look for these 1980 quarters. Save these 1980 quarters. But don't think that they're worth $6 to $10 just because you've got a P that looks like this. That's not a mint error. That's just a use wearing it down. It's an old age mint mark. Have a great day from DC Coin World International Coin Channel.